I think we still have a few people coming in, but I would like to get started. And one of the first ways to get started is to have an overhead on the screen that the gentleman that will be lecturing today is right here. And you won't recognize him when he gets to the podium. So we'll leave this on, but then I'll ask him to turn this off when he comes up. So good morning, and thank you for coming, and welcome to the 9th annual and 13th speaker of the Eric Hilton Distinguished Chair Alumni Series. My name is Clint Rapphole. I am pleased to let you know I've been here 35 years at the Conrad and Hilton College of Hotel and Restaurant Management at the University of Houston. That's longer than some of you are old, probably most of you. I am a professor emeritus. E stands for go. Emeritus deserves to, so I deserve to go, but I'm very fortunate because of our good dean I'm still here. I would like to say a personal thank you to two people that I probably get in the way of more than help them, and that's Wendy Gary and Shannon Burnett, because they do the bulk of the work in putting this together, and I really do thank them very, very much. I would like to recognize some of our previous Eric Hilton Chair Distinguished Lecturers. Mr. Nick Massad, our first chairperson of Eric's Club. Mary Beth Mooring, and those two are from Houston. Mr. Marty Breverman is from California. Dorothy Nicholson from Houston, Texas. Mr. David Chagg from all the way from almost Boston. I guess we can call Boston, Massachusetts, although he's from New Hampshire originally. And Mr. Greg Rocket from Florida. Thank you all very much for being with us this morning. I would like to make a request, and it's a polite request. Hopefully all of you students can stay after 10 o'clock. I know, however, these are our classes, and this class technically gets over at 9:50. And some of you have 10 o'clock classes. Some of you who have 10 o'clock classes have a class in this room, so you're welcome to stay, obviously. Some of you have 10 o'clock classes elsewhere. I'm making a special request. And you can blame me. If you could stay, it would be appreciated. If you can't stay, we understand. And if you would just be quiet about your departure, we would appreciate it. Or if you could extend your stay a little bit after 10 o'clock and then go and not get into too much trouble with your other professor, it would be greatly appreciated. We will have questions and answers because we do have this room after 10 o'clock. So we should have some interesting questions. And Mrs. Beers has also agreed to answer questions along with Mr. Beers. I had to get Mr. Beers' permission, of course, for that to happen. So at this time, I would like to turn the program over to our very capable chairperson, Dorothy Nicholson, 1977 graduate of our college and chairperson of Eric's Club. Dorothy?
Thank you. Well, it's quite an honor for me. I have to say that when I was sitting where you are 30 years ago, well, not exactly where you are, because this wasn't even here 30 years ago. You may know that in 1982, the Hilton Foundation granted the school over $21 million for expanding the school. And along with that, they also provided for 4 endowed chairs. Now, you may ask, what is an endowed chair? That's what this program is all about. An endowed chair is a standard of excellence for this school and for colleges around the country. It's kind of maybe a measure of competition, because as you might study other colleges, you might look and see how many endowed chairs there are held by faculty in those colleges. It's very prestigious for a faculty member to hold an endowed chair. It provides supplemental funding for their salary and for travel and for special projects, for research, and for assistance in providing the best education that they can for you. This college is particularly privileged to have more than the usual number of endowed chairs. First of all, and of course foremost, the Conrad Hilton Endowed Chair, which is held by Dr. Ron Nykiel. We have also the Baron Hilton Endowed Chair, which is held by Dr. John Bowen, your dean. The Eric Hilton Endowed Chair, which was formerly held by Dr. Repole. We also have an endowed chair for our development officer, John Schultz, who was here somewhere a minute ago. There he is over there. And then also the Don Hubbs Professorship, which is held by Dr. Stowe Shoemaker. And since then, we have been privileged to receive an endowment from Specs Charitable Foundation, and that professorship is held by Gianna Abbott. And I'm very pleased to say that a chair was established, an endowed chair was established for Dr. Repole upon his retirement, and that has been contributed to largely by alumni from this college. I'm hoping that in the future, perhaps 30 years from now, you may not imagine that you might be standing here, and I certainly didn't at the time. I'm hoping that you will stay connected to the college, and as time goes by, you will also be making contributions that will further the education of the future students. Right now, you know, the college is kind of being run by a bunch of Cornellians. You know, that's great. They got a great education. But my hope is that someday we will have faculty and staff and a dean that was educated here at the Conrad Hilton Hotel and Management College. And now to introduce our speaker, I would like to have Mary Beth Mooring. She was our past Eric Hilton lecturer, and she's going to introduce John Beers.
Thank you. You know, as Dorothy said, it really is a privilege to be here. Some of us had the opportunity to be significantly impacted in our careers, so it's neat to have the opportunity to come back and share just a tad bit of wisdom, or what we might perceive as a tad bit of wisdom as you embark on your careers. And it's my special privilege this morning to have the opportunity to introduce to you John Beers. The title of John's discussion this morning is A Fork in the Yellow Brick Road. And you know, as you set out in your career, you quickly learn that there are many diverse roads that you can pursue. Some that you see and some that kind of hit you out of left field. You also quickly learn that hindsight is always 20/20. I mean, I love the Monday morning quarterbacks who always pass all their judgment and commentary on what happened the previous day. What's significantly more important is that we be prepared to not only see and sense those opportunities, but to be able to quickly capitalize on them at the same time. John is an absolutely fabulous role model for not only seeing a fork in a road, but capitalizing on it quite effectively. John graduated from our college back in 1976 and began his distinguished career with the Hilton Corporation. As a matter of fact, some of you may have heard of the old Shamrock Hilton that was one of the cornerstone properties here in Houston. This eventually led him to start his own hotel management development company called the Charter Lodging Management Organization. And then in 1992, a very different fork in the road presented itself to John. And at that particular point in time, which was, 17 years ago, 18? About 16 years ago. And you know, when you think about your careers, you kind of think you get positioned and you're going to head down the same road. Well, this was an opportunity that presented itself to John that was literally a 180 to what he was doing. And that opportunity was an opportunity to pursue the industrial construction business. Today, he is Vice President of Bates Engineers, where he oversees the management of large industrial projects. If you can imagine 30 football fields under one roof, you start to get the magnitude of some of his responsibilities as vice president of this organization. It's kind of like feeding a banquet party of 10 or 20,000 people. You know, and in addition to his daily management project, his responsibilities for managing these large-scale projects, he also oversees the IT and the accounting functions. And if you really think about it, in our increasingly complex world, the role that IT and accounting plays is significant, not only from an overall growth perspective, but also from a bottom line perspective. And you know, what's probably more important in John's successful career is not so much that he just simply noticed the fork in the road, but he really took advantage of it. Today, a key theme that you will hear John mention is that regardless of the fork in the Yellow Brook Road that you might pursue, he's going to talk to you about being a person of excellence. And this must mean you must step out of the box, do your homework, put your heart and soul into your work, and be willing to take a different road. Be willing to take some risks where there may be an unknown future. He and his wife Joan of 30 years, and for those of us that have had the good fortune and blessing of being married for long periods of time, realize what a wonderful support mechanisms our spouses are, so it's great to have Joan with us also this morning. He and his wife Joan have one grown daughter, and they enjoy traveling in the U.S. and abroad. And rumor has it that if you're on the open waters and on a powerboat, you may be seeing Joan and John not puddling along, but kind of going full throttle. So again, please join me in welcoming Lucky 13, the Eric Hilton Distinguished Alumni Chair, John Beers.
Well, let me see if I can turn my little mic on. Wow, what an introduction. It's I'm going to turn that photograph off because that is certainly one of the past and one from an old time at University of Houston. Before I get started, I really would like to thank Dr. Rappole and Dean Bowen for this distinguished honor. It's really great to be able to come back and talk to students who, it doesn't seem very long ago that I was in the same seat that you guys were in. And right now, this particular talk that I'm going to give this morning, presentation, is basically going to give you the opportunity to hopefully see that there is a transition from the hotel industry. There is, if you have a hotel degree, that you may decide that 10 years from now that you want to move in a different direction. Well, believe me, it's truly possible. And when I first got started in the hotel business, I thought it was my lifelong passion, and that was where I was going to be forever. And how many seniors do we have in the audience today? Any seniors? Okay, great. Whether you're a senior or whether you're an underclassman, there's really some things that you're gonna run into. When you get ready to graduate, I remember the day that I walked out of Hofheinz, and with my diploma, feeling like I was on top of the world. And you know, there's a lot of emotions that go through your mind at that time. You know, it's a time of excitement. You know, you're finally graduating after spending all these hours in classes and taking all these exams and putting yourself through school, or you know, whatever your challenges were when you were going to school. You also have, you know, time of decisions. You know, what segment of the hospitality business do I want to be in? There's lots of directions to go. There's some soul searching. You know, which segment do I like? Which job offer is going to be the best? There's a time for fear. I mean, you know, you're stepping outside the box a little bit. You know, you're leaving friends. You're leaving a known area. You're leaving your friends. You know, in a lot of cases, I know I did. There's a future vision. you know, what career steps are you going to take or that are going to be available to you? What company are you going to work for? There's just so many things to think about. Fortunately, when I walked out in '76, I was pretty well set. I had already worked for Hilton Hotels Corporation here in Atlanta at the Shamrock Hilton. I had, those of you who can ever remember that hotel, I don't recall when it was demolished. I think back in the 80s possibly, 86. It was a fabulous hotel. You know, I started there, I worked there while I had the opportunity of working there while I was going to school. It was great. I had worked under the direction of a UH grad, Robert Velker, who is now, I think, running his own hotel company. He was my mentor. He spent hours and hours with me, teaching me what I needed to know. And so I wasn't walking into an unknown like a lot of people do. I knew who I was working for. I knew the people. I had a good feeling, good comfort level as to where I was going. He was able to get me under the HPDP program, which stands for Hilton Personnel Development Program. That program allowed me to work in every phase of the hotel. I worked kitchen, I made beds, I worked in the laundry, I worked in food and beverage. I mean, you have to do it all. And that was a tremendous amount of learning for me. My mentor, Bob, got transferred to the Atlanta Hilton, and the Atlanta Hilton was, I was not far on his heels. He called me within about 3 weeks of his transfer, and I was transferred immediately to the Atlanta Hilton and Towers, which, as a nightclub manager, I ran a nightclub for a while there on the roof. I was a restaurant manager in a 24-hour-a-day restaurant operation, which, you know, that operation probably challenged me the most. It was 24 hours a day. I had 3 managers working for me, and I had probably about 35 employees. And you want to talk about personnel headaches? There was always a training area that needed to be dealt with. There was always a hiring or a firing issue. And I would encourage you, if you have the opportunity to take a personnel management course while you're here, it won't be wasted time. You know, that is, I took one here and was very thankful that I did. It will benefit you tremendously in learning how to deal with situations that you're going to experience in the field. In this particular hotel, it was a very large hotel. As you can see, it had 1,226 guest rooms and suites, had 10 different restaurants, bars, and lounges, and it had banquet facilities for an excess of 3. We could serve 3,000 people at any given time. So it was a factory. We had multiple kitchens, and it was really an operation that was a phenomenal learning ground. The department was broken down into 2 different areas, 2 different assistant food and beverage directors. That was so big that one assistant food and beverage director couldn't handle it all. We had an assistant F&B in charge of food and beverage administration. We had another one in charge of operations, running around needing jet-powered roller skates, basically, to get around that facility and keep the operations under control. And I started, after my restaurant management position, I moved into the assistant F&B in charge of administration, which was handling things like china, glass, and silver inventories, all the purchasing that went on for the department as far as capital budgeting, monitoring the sales and revenues for every outlet, tracking our prime costs, food, bar, labor, all those prime costs had to be tracked every day. It was a pretty big job, and back in that era, it was done without a computer. So there was a lot of manual transcription, whereas nowadays everybody lives by the computer. Bob Velker ended up leaving Hilton and went to work for Stouffer's, and that created a position. and in the hotel, and the assistant F&B in charge of operations was a European trained individual, and he moved up into the F&B director slot. That made a slot available for me in the operations position. So I took over the assistant F&B in charge of operations, and that is probably where I learned the most about how to run an operation. You have that department did over $20 million a year at that point in time. It was a tremendous learning environment. You really had to learn how to be a team player, because if you weren't a team player, you couldn't motivate all these different department heads. We had about 15 or 18 different department heads. Each department head, a lot of them were European trained, as a matter of fact, and anyone who's worked with European trained individuals, they can be relatively difficult to deal with, and you have to learn to play the middle ground a lot of times with them to get the game plan implemented. So that was a real proving ground for me, and really an area where I gained tremendous foundation in the food and beverage area. So I would encourage you to look hard at large corporations, because they can provide you a tremendous area to learn and to grow and to progress. After the Hilton operation, I was approached by the Dunphy Hotel Corporation, and which was another hotel not far from where the Hilton was in Atlanta. Of course, that brought back all of the emotions of stepping out of that comfort zone and that box and wondering, am I making the right move to move on to a different corporation? As it was, there was lots of times for decisions and soul searching, and you had to go back to those visions and trying to see where your career could go with them. The operation I was going to needed some work. It had operational cost control issues. Had to spend a great deal of effort and pretty much just get down and hands-on approach in every different restaurant and bar operation to make a positive impact. We changed out some players in our management department, and we ended up making a very positive impact in the operation. But basically, it was the teamwork and the staff dedication that we developed in the hotel that really made it all come together and turned the profitability of the operation around. During my second year at Dunphy, a friend of mine, previous UH grad, had come to me and asked me to basically join his company, leave my comfort zone again, and move on to a hotel and restaurant management firm that would independently manage properties, both lodging type properties as well as restaurants, independent restaurants, restaurant chains. And it was a small company. He and his father owned the company, and of course it was some things to think about there. I had a wife who had just gotten a job in Atlanta, and we didn't really want to leave the city, and so it was an opportunity for me to stay in the city of Atlanta, and that was pretty much what we decided to do. When an opportunity presents itself like this, I can't encourage you enough, but do your homework and do some research, before you make your decision. Get down and really understand where you're going and what you're doing. It'll pay off so much more when you get down the road. And if the opportunity looks like it's a positive opportunity, and you've examined the environment, you feel a great deal of integrity with the people you're going to be working with, seize that opportunity. I mean, don't sit around and wait. Take it. But don't take it unless you've done your homework and you can feel comfortable in your gut that it was the right thing, you'll definitely come out a leader, and your career will advance phenomenally. And I know a lot of you won't be able to see this until you get into the career world and start experiencing what happens to you when you're actually looking to change jobs or move in a different direction. With this other position, I was made a vice president of the company. I was given some ownership in the company. It was a pretty good move. It seemed like, it looked good on paper. I think that, when I reflect back on the whole operation, it was maybe not the best thing in the world, but it led me to where I am today. So you never know where something's going to lead you and how it's going to impact you 6 months, 12 months, 2 years down the road. In this particular case, you're going to see how it progressed and moved me into a position where I happen to network with the right people. The biggest thing with an operation like this is, and it was a new company, the only business you seem to get is difficult business. Business that is a turnaround type business, where and turnaround in essence is a project that's usually on its last breath. It's been run down. It doesn't have a lot of potential at the moment, and somebody's looking to for a company that's going to walk in the door and administer CPR because the business is about ready to go under. Well, needless to say, that takes its toll on the guys who are trying to come in and do the CPR too. It's a very difficult job. I know some of the guys who have been previous lecturers have experienced having to deal with turnaround operations, and turnaround takes a great deal of confidence that the game plan that you've put together is going to work, and then it takes a great many hours to ensure that the changes that you're going to make are in fact being administered properly and regularly. So, and most of all, it takes a solvent owner. If a solvent owner isn't going to be able to help you with any capital, then you're pretty much doomed. The single biggest downfall that I have found in businesses today, and we were involved in probably a dozen different businesses with this company, is mismanagement of funds. You hear people talk about it. Well, I've seen a lot of it firsthand. You've got employees stealing products from the kitchen and the bar. You've got employees stealing cash receipts. You've got owners taking personal expenses out of the checkbook. You name it, and I've probably seen it. You've got owners who have put together inadequate financing packages from the very beginning of the project. Well, that's a recipe for disaster right out of the chute. And we unfortunately had to deal with a lot of those issues. Some of the issues we dealt with, we were able to turn around and make success stories. Some of them, it was too late. They just didn't survive, and they went down the Chapter 7 bankruptcy avenue. So the real world is, take a look at what you're going to jump into, because you don't want to have to go down that road if you can avoid it, because that's a pretty difficult road. We took after dealing with some problem operations, we decided we'd change our focus a little bit, and we decided to go after more consulting and more fee-based kind of work with our management company, which I know Greg Rocket has done a phenomenal amount of. That progressed pretty well, and we also came up with some additional lodging management contracts, and that pretty much pointed me in the direction of where I am today. and made that, quote, network connection, you might say, where I was able to meet some people that it turned into a different career down the road. Anybody seen a Holiday Inn like that before? Not in a long time, Dorothy says. Yeah, that's really the old style Holiday Inns, and that was the first the actual management contract that we got in Bainbridge, Georgia, and which is where my wife and I reside right now. That hotel has since gone through a phenomenal amount, and that was where I actually met the owners. The owners of that particular project was Bates Engineers and Contractors. They proceeded to do like a lot of companies do. They say, well, gee, we'd like to have a hotel in our portfolio, and they bought a hotel and thought they could run it, and proceeded to lose about $25,000 a month for about 3 months, and said, you know, I don't think we can really do this on the way we think we thought we could. And so at this point in time, they called our company in Atlanta. You know, we worked it out where we got a 2-year management contract on it, and we started operating the hotel. We brought in our management. We brought in our systems and controls and procedures, which were developed from my experiences with Hilton and Dunphy. Implemented a tremendous cleanup phase and new menus, and changed guest room cleanliness, and just made a dramatic improvement, and turned the property to a break even in 1 month. So we took it from a $25,000 loss to a break even, and needless to say, the owners were extremely happy. They began to start pumping money into it. They changed it to a different product. We analyzed where our business was coming from to this small area. This is a town of about 12,000 people. We looked at the holodeck reports and determined that the people were coming there for a specific reason. You know, not because it was a Holiday Inn. They were coming there for something they were doing in the town or something they were doing in the area, and Holiday Inn franchise was only costing money. So we decided to drop the franchise, which is a difficult decision. But we thought we knew what we were doing. We dropped it, changed the name to Charterhouse Inn, and progressed and renovated and just changed the whole image of the place. And you know, just prior to the end of that contract we had with the owners, of course, I had become very close with those owners, obviously, because my team was the one that was doing all the work and turning everything around. So they came to me and they said, look, we have an idea. You know, we want to start a new development company. We want you to start a new management company. We want to develop new Charterhouse Inns, and we want you to set up a new management company to operate them. So, you know, at the time, I wasn't feeling real good about the company, the management company I was working with, and so my wife and I decided that it was the best financial move for us and the best career move, and it was an opportunity to start my own thing, be my own boss in a lot of regards. You're totally your own boss, but in this case, you know, I was able to start up our own operation, and you know, my wife and I chose to move to Bainbridge, Georgia, which is only about 45 miles from Tallahassee and kind of in the middle of nowhere. So we began charter lodging management. I started it from scratch, from a piece of paper, basically. Set up all of our accounting systems, set up all our computer systems, put together our systems and controls, and put together a did some feasibility studies on some new project areas, and we were off and running. That all took place in 1983, and shortly after I got started and got things operating the way we needed to, we immediately jumped into some new property construction. We took and developed our own brand, you might say, Charterhouse Inns. We put together, to finance the projects, we put together general partnerships, which everybody shared equally on the liability, and we usually had 5 or 6 high net worth individuals pulled together to put together the front money to make the projects or finance the projects and get them out of the blocks. Bates, the other side of the company, basically did all of the engineering, the design, the construction, the drawings, and architectural work. And then Charter Lodging came in, and we actually laid out all of the insides of the buildings. We laid out the restaurants, the kitchens, the banquet facilities, lounges, and so forth. Our very first hotel was a very small property. It was called Charterhouse Inn, as I said. It was 62 rooms, had a full-service restaurant, lounge, banquet facilities, and it was in South Alabama. We specifically picked our market niche to be small secondary markets. We weren't going into the big markets and trying to bump our heads against the big boys. We wanted to try to be small and just control exactly what we were doing. And most of these projects really met a need, because these small communities pretty much had virtually nothing. Most of our success came in our attention to detail and the high quality food and beverage operations we put together. You don't expect a high quality restaurant or a nice lounge or nice banquet facilities in a small market. And that was where we felt we could excel the most, which is what we really put our emphasis on. I also employed a corporate marketing director. You know, we didn't take for granted the market when we went into these areas. We put marketing people in. I had a corporate marketing director putting together a master marketing plan, and then we implemented it with unit sales managers in every different property we had. And he oversaw them, and we did new menus and new brochures and collateral material for the businesses, and you know, it was a real, you know, just a full-blown little hotel company that was trying to do all the right things. After building 3 successful units, the federal government decided to change the tax laws on us. No grandfathering, no nothing, just cut the rug out from underneath us, basically. And we had all of our properties, of course, were financed with general partnerships, and those partnerships were looking to take investment credits back to their personal income tax returns, which is where the incentive was for them to want to build more properties. Well, when the 1986 tax legislation came into play, there was no longer any more tax benefits. So these guys weren't too motivated anymore about putting any more money in any more projects. So after about 5 years of us continuing to operate, but them not having an interest in doing any more development, you know, it basically put me at a crossroads. You know, I was either, you know, as we were selling off units because they wanted to get their money back, we had to decide what we were going to do as a management company. We were either, and at that point in time, the market was not very good. It was difficult to get additional management contracts with other owners, and development was not in the forefront either without the financing. So we decided it best to just liquidate off everything. This is where my fork came into Yellow Brick Road, and where I made the decision to transition into something else. I was telling Nathan yesterday, it was not really a hard transition, it was more of an evolution, because while I was building these properties, I became integrally involved in the construction of them. You know, knowing how the roof went together, knowing how the walls went together, knowing how the finishes went on the walls, learning about the mechanical systems, the electrical, and so I already had a pretty good idea about construction by that point in time. So my fork came when we were deciding what to do, and I decided that the best option for me was an option that was presented by one of my partners, who was a partner in the management company with me, and he was also president of our industrial construction company, Bates Engineers. And he came to me and presented an opportunity to learn the industrial construction business. He says, I can teach you what you need to know. He says, you know enough of the basics now, you have a good math background, and you have a lot of things you can bring to the table for us. So he said, you know, I think it'd be the best move for you. And at the time, my wife and I thought about it. We looked at the pros and cons. We said, yeah, it probably is. We didn't have to uproot the family and move, and so it evolved into the point of me taking some of that construction experience that I got while I was building hotels and parlayed it into learning the industrial construction end, which is quite a bit different from what I had been doing. You know, there was a tremendous learning curve, as you can well imagine. Took me probably at least 2 years till I felt comfortable in what I was doing. I was proficient at it. Probably the single biggest thing that was difficult for me was learning the techniques of building industrial buildings. You know, industrial buildings are a lot of concrete slabs, concrete walls, structural steel columns and beams, and you know, just pretty basic kind of stuff. But there was a lot of other things. You know, there was blueprint reading, learning how to read blueprints. There was learning demolition procedures and site grading and concrete placement and steel erection and metal building construction, and just a myriad of different things. But fortunately, the company I was working with, they started me slow. They gave me an opportunity to run small construction jobs in an industrial environment where Mary Beth made the reference to the fact that I have had some projects that were 30 football fields large. Well, in this particular case, I worked within that building, which was over 1 million square feet, and did probably 126 different small little construction jobs for about 2 years. Well, that was the best learning ground that I could ever get. I learned the nuts and bolts of everything at that point. It was really an area where I learned from the ground floor with having the support of the engineers that I was working with in the office. So you know, it was my real proving ground, you might say, as to being able to do the job. During that time, I also learned how to do cost estimates for large jobs, $12, $13, $14 million construction projects, and went through the bidding process on them, which is pretty complicated. And during that time, I discovered a weakness we had in the company. We had a weakness where we had very little IT in our company. We did not have much with regards to computerization. A lot of this work was all done manually, even though we had spreadsheet programs available. Our company was just not there yet. You know, it was started in 1962, and we still had some of that old 1962 blood in there that wasn't willing to come up to the computer age quite yet. So we ended up pretty much scrapping a lot of the procedures we were doing, and I was given the task of making us more computerized and more computer savvy. And at the same time, we had another thing going on. We had a realignment of our company where we had the market changed on us, and we had to change exactly what we were doing. We had to develop a new corporate brochure, and since I had already done that for my management firm, I was the natural person who had to go ahead and work on that. We had design build projects was our latest thing, where we would design and construct the projects, which was a more lucrative avenue for us. We also had hard bid projects for a lot of military and municipal water treatment type projects, infrastructure type projects in major cities. And we also developed our own website, which of course in today's age you can't live without a website. So you know, it was as we moved forward, we took our brochure and we concentrated on some very specific areas. We concentrated on wood products manufacturing, you know, taken from the raw tree to finished grade plywood, you might say. That was one avenue we started moving towards. We worked into food processing, particularly did a lot with peanuts. Peanut processing from the shelling operation to the crushing operations. We also did distribution centers. The building you see on the bottom right is a distribution center for an alcoholic beverage company. We also did high bay storage, high rack storage, which I know Mary Beth has a lot of that in what they do in their distribution centers. The next avenue we went into is water and wastewater treatment. There's a real need for, in our country, building new infrastructure. Everybody's heard about the bridge disasters. Well, there's an awful lot of disasters that you really don't see, where communities are still taking their wastewater or their sewage and just throwing it into ponds and not properly treating it. We've begun working with a lot of municipalities, developing and bidding and building new wastewater facilities that the water can come out of these plants and go directly into streams. We also do water purification. Those of you you've seen all the big problems on the news with Atlanta and the lack of their water. We built 2 plants in Atlanta, although I don't know if they're operating now because there may not be enough water in their reservoirs. You know, they draw directly out of the reservoirs and purify that water and send it down a pipeline to your house. And that's pretty much you know, how simple it is. But there is an awful lot of, as you can see, complicated systems, heavy piping, chemical feed systems, you know, a lot of things that go into water purification. The latest infrastructure type play that we've begun working on is power generation. Everybody's heard about brownouts, peaks. You know, we don't have enough peak power. These plants that we're constructing here right now will actually handle peak power requirements for various electric companies. So we have 2 plants operations like this we're building in North Carolina right now, and 1 in Puerto Rico. And we also built one in Reno, Nevada. The one you see with the mountains in the background. In the middle on the right was 6 units in the middle of the desert, which was quite a challenge. We built that plant in 6 months, working 24 hours a day. You can kind of get a flavor for you know, what type of projects that we've redirected ourselves to, and you can see here some of the latest projects I did. I thought you might want to see some of the most current stuff. This is a $12.5 million wastewater water treatment facility. Although the local residents call it their country club, it actually looks like a country club from the outside. But when you go inside, there's filters, there's laboratories, there's lots of piping. And so that building's pretty deceiving. This is a coordinating building to it where all the 6 different chemicals are injected into the water based on the water conditions that they're dealing with at any given point in time at the reservoir. And you can actually see there's a silo coming out of the roof. That was a little challenging, getting that to come together. But we did it. And we've also branched into the military. We've moved into aircraft-type military work. In this case, we built a helicopter parts warehouse in Fort Rucker, Alabama. This particular project won an award for its design and layout with the building company that supplied some of the structural building for us. There's a very large C-130 aircraft hangar at Pope Air Force Base in North Carolina. It houses 2 C-130 aircraft, which is the large aircraft that's used to transport our troops and hardware pretty much around the world. Those particular aircraft were used a lot during the Vietnam era. This is a picture out of the latest project that I just completed. This is a peanut oil, the beginnings of a peanut oil, food-grade peanut oil refinery. I'm sure y'all have seen peanut oil in some of your travels through kitchens. And this is a deodorizer that actually helps to deodorize the peanut oil. There's probably 15 other tanks within that building, but you can see the heavy structural steel that's involved in supporting the building. The building itself is about 80 feet tall, and that particular piece of equipment, that deodorizer, was trucked all the way from Mexico. It was fabricated in Mexico and brought to us in Georgia. There's a view of the finished product with all the sidewalls buttoned up and all the equipment installed inside the building. It was also a very large project at about $13.5 million. Another phase to that project, it seemed like I was on that project for about almost 2 years trying to get it finished, was an office building. And then this is a different type of construction than usually what you're used to seeing. This is concrete tilt walls. Those walls are actually concrete. They're poured on the ground, and then they're picked up, set in place, and there's weld plates in the back where it's welded off to the steel, so it provides structural integrity to the building. You can see there's some decorative type castings into the panels, and they also, when you see the final product, improve the overall look of the building and give it something, a real special look. There's the finished product. And the peanut logo that you see in the very front was actually cast into the concrete. We built forms and cast it into the concrete and then painted it to match the company's corporate logo. So I hope you can see that, you know, when you move out of the comfort zone of where you are in the hotel industry, it's not the end of the world. It can be a very positive thing. You know, I look at what my keys to success were and what got me ahead, basically, and employ the highest level of integrity. You know, that's one of the basic things that you have. And when you project that and practice that, you'll go far. Establish a strong work ethic. You know, that work ethic is extremely critical, especially in your early portion of your career. Do what it takes. You know, do what it takes. Look for filling corporate needs and creating value for your employer. That's how I got promoted to VP in the engineering company that I'm at. I saw weaknesses, I saw needs, and I didn't wait around for somebody else to find them. I jumped in there, found those needs, created value, created profits for my company, and they rewarded me appropriately. Be a team player. You know, be a positive contributor, and more importantly, be a problem solver. I have a daughter who's 23. She's just recently graduated from Florida State, and unfortunately she didn't come to U of H. But, you know, I'm trying to teach her to be a problem solver. Problem solving is a difficult thing. Sometimes I wonder if it just is bred into you or something, but she's becoming better, mainly because she's on her own now in Tampa, Florida. So that has a lot to do with forcing you to solve your own problems. And more importantly, to echo what Mary Beth said, be a person of excellence. You know, if you have that attitude, you're gonna excel. So I thank you for your attention today, and certainly appreciate everybody's attendance. And it's been a great experience for me to be here, and I know that you'll find that these keys will be valuable to you in the hospitality industry as well as any other industry you might choose to move into. Thank you.
Well done. I know some of you may have to leave. Obviously, we would greatly appreciate those of you who don't have to leave if you can stay for a few minutes. Mr. Beers and if Mrs. Beers is willing, they would like to answer any questions that you might have. So please have at Mr. and Mrs. Beers.
Do you have anything, the chart house, does it have anything to do with the chart house restaurants?
Did not have anything to do with the Chart House. We had our name was Charter House, and their name was Chart House. Yes, ma'am.
My question is on your projects. You said you were looking at getting into the wood aspect of it.
Mm-hmm.
With all the concrete work you do you contract out locally, or do you have your own?
That's a good question. It somewhat depends on where we're working, but typically our company is geared up to do our own concrete work, and we would do our own forming. We would do our own placing of the concrete. We would strip the forms off, and we would do all that ourselves with our own forces. So, you're welcome. Nathan, did you have a question?
How did you come up with the name Chart House?
That's a good question too. I came up with the name Charter House, and then we threw the word "in" on it. I happened to, when I was living in Atlanta, there was a company called the Charter Group, and don't ask me what they did, because I don't know. But I remember seeing their name on signs, and I thought, you know, that name sounds like, you know, a good name. And so we started with that, added house to it because we were a hotel, and then threw inns on the end of it, and that's how it all came together. But I don't know, I pitched it to the owner, and I didn't think he'd take it, but he liked it, and so we used it. So just pull something out of the hat, you know, in a way. Yes?
What was your occupancy rate when you had the Holiday Inn brand name on that property?
The Holiday Inn occupancy was running about 52%.
What happened when you took the brand name off?
We increased it to 65.
Was that at the same rate, basically?
Yes. We escalated the rate a little bit too. But we looked at, you know, when we looked at where the business was coming from and why it was coming there, we weren't getting the passerby, you know, that was looking for the brand. You know, as long as you're not getting the passerby, or you're not on a major interstate, to us it was a no-brainer. But I wouldn't attempt it on a major interstate or a major thoroughfare, 4-lane highway or sorts. Not today. Of course, that was back in 1983, so or 81, a long time ago. Yes, sir.
Heard you mention your wife a couple of times. I know in this industry it's kind of hard, especially because you've been moving around a little bit, going from one to another, changing careers. How much of a say does your wife have in your business decisions?
Do you want to answer that question, Joan?
Sure. Actually, John and I have known each other a long time. We met in high school. We continued to date, sort of. He was in Houston. I went to undergraduate school in Pennsylvania. So we've known each other a long time. And when you move away from family, our family all lives in Pennsylvania, you become a team. And so we really worked together and talked a lot about what would be best for us as a couple, for our family, and for his career, and made our decisions based on talking together and trying to decide what would be best for all of us and his career.
It takes the right woman, and it takes somebody who has the team approach. Yes, ma'am.
So would you say you're more comfortable, you enjoy the hotel industry more, or the industry you're in now?
It's a good question. I still love the hotel industry, but what I like about what I do right now is that, of course, the hotel industry is a changing business. You have a lot of different things every day. I wasn't saddled to a desk, which is what I liked. I like to be moving around the operations and things. In a way, I have the same type freedom. We do a job, we finish the job, we get the owner happy with his building, and we move on to another job. So I'm moving on somewhere else, seeing different territory. That fits with me well, and I really think from a benefit and a financial standpoint for me in this given situation, it was the best move for me to shift my gears. Another thing it did for me was, and you need to think about this too, it made me a multifaceted employee. I knew the hotel business, I know the consulting business, I know the accounting business, I know the construction business. It added a lot more marketability to me, and you need to be thinking about that as an individual. You know, think about, what do I need to do to myself to make myself marketable when I go out and look for a job? You know, and I thought to myself, well, if the economy takes a downturn and the hotel industry goes in the toilet, which it has been known to do periodically, what if I don't have a job in the hotel business? What am I going to do? So I thought, well, you know, moving in this other direction provided me another avenue, another way for me to provide for my family, to still continue to have a good life. And so that was in the back of my mind too. So to answer your question though, I do enjoy what I do right now.
One more question. Two more questions.
How does your hospitality background help you to be
in a different industry? Detail and organizational skills were what really helped me excel in the job that I have right now. When we bid a job, for example, it's probably very foreign to everybody in this room. We get a book of specifications that might be that thick. You have to read that book. You have to go through there and find all the details and make sure that the price that you're bidding for that particular project, and it could be a project just in the hotel business, for example. It could be bidding a project to renovate this hotel here that we're in right now. There's phenomenal amounts of details that you have to go through and understand the specifications for every different part. Where does the lamp need to come from? Where does the carpet need to come from? Where does the wall treatment need to come from? What type of casework or tables and chairs and armoires and things are we going to put in the rooms? And the details are really what allowed me to move into where I am right now, because it's a very detailed job if you're going to be successful. And so the detail skills that I learned on the hotel side definitely transmitted and allowed me to be successful in what I'm doing today. Hey, Nick.
With your combined experience, did you ever think about Bates becoming a hotel builder, actually developing a system like your tilt wall and other things to actually build hotels and use your experience to do that?
We actually have not looked at that market. We have, I will tell you this though, we did an experiment with one of our properties that one of our charter house inns. Of course, we were heavy into tilt wall construction, doing distribution centers and so forth. And our engineers said, well, you know, we're doing all this tilt wall work, why don't we build a tilt wall motel? And so we did one. I didn't particularly feel real comfortable about it, but we did one. It's still in great shape today. We used all the common walls between all of the rooms were all cast on the ground and stacked up and picked up one by one with the crane and set in place. And then we came back in between them and put the steel structure in there and poured floors between them and reinforced them, and it worked. So, you know, to answer your question, we have not actually delved into that market. We haven't really seen a strong need for it, and so we've just been pursuing other avenues that we know we can produce our volume with.
I know you'd be very good at it if you decided to go that direction.
Yeah, that's true. I appreciate that. We like I said, we dabbled in it a little bit, and we know we could do it. Yeah, we know we could do it.
We have a very brief presentation we'd like to make to Mr. Beers, and I thank you all again for staying.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Beers, on behalf of the Dean and the Atlanta Hilton College Hotel and Restaurant Management, we present this plaque to you in the Eric Hilton Distinguished Chair Alumni Series, November 2nd, 2007.
Fantastic.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much, sir. It's beautiful. It's beautiful.
We'd like you to just continue standing here.
All right.
This person's not. You can't turn around.
Okay, I won't turn around.
You can't turn around. You have to just stand. And now we want you to step back just a little bit and then sit down. Do you have faith in me?
Yeah.
After he looks at you.
Well,
with what you did to me already today, I wasn't totally sure.
Congratulations. This is for you, this chair.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Very nice. That's beautiful.
So thank you all so much for coming. We do have, obviously, some time. If there are those of you who would like to chat with Mr. Beers, please feel free to stay and do so. And again, thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
And,
That's beautiful.